Well, this is the situation facing the Allies now at the beginning of the combat phase here in turn 7. The situation is developing up in the north, and it really wasn't by design. I was basically finding outlets to attack with annoyance attacks, just trying to probe and see what I could do against the Rangers using primarily the Hermann Goering division. And I got lucky on 2 different die rolls that led to greater than anticipated results. And the long and the short of it is now the Rangers beachhead is isolated from Salerno. And if this falls, that frees up a lot of these guys now to bottleneck the Allies' drive to the north. So this could have disproportionately high results in the end game. So we're going to see how this works out. We went ahead and withdrew the regiment, the key regiment, from the 15th Panzer Grenadiers. We left a ghost, just a little bit of a skeleton crew here behind to guard the road to the north. And so it's just 1 battalion. He is a two-strength unit, but we left him behind to guard the road. We did have to withdraw 26 Panzer units, both a tank company and an infantry battalion, and we put them here in the open terrain where the tank is going to offset the abilities of the elite paratroopers. And the Allies came close. If they'd gotten a successful drop, they probably would have taken Avellino, but they didn't. But now we need to kind of keep these guys from causing problems, and so that's why we withdrew those guys there. And we took the regiment from 15 Panzer Grenadiers, a 6-strength unit, parked him with a 3-strength, 2-strength, and we'll call this guy 1-strength, but this is all we need. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12. I guess we do need that one. Half strength because of the mountains. And so we can go ahead and use those to do a full-on attack on this particular stack here. It's going to be a 4-strength defense plus 2 more for the tank destroyers. So that's going to give us 2-to-1 odds. Throw in the naval warfares. That'll give us up to 3-to-1. And there's no U.S. air support. Only have British air support. So, yeah, this is an important die roll coming up. Down in the south near Battipaglia, we have put some more strength into Battipaglia. We're kind of doubling down on this. I might be overdoing this. We really weakened the center here, but I massed the better part of the 29th Panzer Grenadiers with the Hermann Goering tank battalion attached, and then this guy will be at half strength. But the only reason I'm including this guy in the attack is so that when this succeeds, I'm assuming it will, they can advance backwards back to here and reseal the center. But the goal is to push these guys away from the from attack position on Battipaglia, and perhaps maybe force them all the way back to the beachhead, or maybe even get a follow-on attack on this stack and drive him away from the hex as well. We're not going to get rid of the city battle marker, but we can perhaps relieve a lot of the pressure on it and inflict some more casualties. Can't get 2-to-1 odds on it because there's 12 strength points here, and you can only have a maximum of 20 strength points in attack. So we're going to rely on combat shifts, and there are 2 artillery units here in range to support the main attack. So the goal there again is to hurt the Commonwealth. They've got no tanks there, so that's going to be 1 shift. Elite, that's 2 shift, 3, 4. So basically they're at 1-to-1, 2-to-1 for tanks, 3-to-1 for elite, 4-to-1, 5-to-1. We could get, with a die roll of a 6, defender shattered results out of that. So that's going to force the Commonwealth to use their air support to defend that, break up that attack, bring it back down to a 4-to-1, and that means that the Commonwealth will not have that available for any attacks on Battipaglia in their half of the turn. So that's basically where things stand now as we're about to roll these combats out. So all that said, let's go ahead and roll these things. So we're going to go ahead and get our German dice ready. We're going to take care of this one here first. Ooh, not so good. That's a 1. Big, ugly 1 for them. It's 3-to-1, so that's an exchange. And it also means that the Germans get to choose which one dies. Now, this is going to force, well, there's no question about it. You got to kill the Rangers. So, Rangers are going to die valiantly, but die all the same. Now, the question for the Germans is, what do you do here? Who do you take out? I kind of think that you got to put it, I don't know, taking on this guy doesn't, it reduces the offensive strength by only 2. This does the same thing. Man. I kind of like, it's a strange idea, but if I kill this, I take 2, I only take 1 strength point out of it, but I get this guy out of, this no longer is a Zoc bond if this guy dies. I think that's probably our best move, is to kill him and leave this stack alone. And we're going to have to send in some support. But I think that that is probably the most efficient use of that. So we'll go ahead and mark him as having fired. That opens up opportunity for support from Salerno to make its way around and relieve some of that pressure on the Ranger beachhead, which is no longer occupied by Rangers because all of Darby's Rangers are in this box here. At least until turn 10. That's the soonest we can get any of them restored back to combat action. All right, for this attack here, we're going to get, like I said, a 1-to-1. This all devolves down to a 4-to-1, so we'll mark the support marker as used. Roll the dice, 4-to-1, and we rolled a 1 again. Wow. This is really what the Allies need. Okay, a defender retreat result. They can live with that. And we're not going to try to force anything there. Let's bring them all the way back to the B. I think it's a mistake to bring them all back to the beachhead, because if I bring them all back to the beachhead, the artillery becomes vulnerable. Those are victory points there, and the Germans will just eat them for breakfast. So I think we're gonna have to split this up. I think we got to do it like this. I think that is probably looking at the strings here, 5, 8. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to have to do. I would rather lose the beachhead than the artillery. Let's put it that way. So let's go ahead and defend it like so. We'll put disrupted markers on that. And then I got a big decision to make with the advance, because you can advance 2 hexes. Actually, let me rethink this. If they can only advance 2 hexes, that means they cannot attack this space. Check that. I fixed the problem. Here's the problem right here. This is really hard to do while you're filming. I need to get a better mic stand. I need to get a tripod or something here. Okay. Let's do it like this, and I'll explain why. I just realized it's only going to have an advance 2, which means they go, if this stack here advances here, they can continue here because this is the unoccupied space, so they can move Zoc to Zoc. This unit's Zoc is ignored in that space. So they could make it to an attack position, but they're not going to, you need a level 3 advance in order to make the, to use your third advance hex as a breakthrough attack on that particular stack. And they can't do that. The best they could hope for here would be a move into here for 1 and a follow-on attack in there. So by massing our strength in there, we make it a more dicey proposition, because if the attack fails, then this stack would not be able to withdraw to a safe position. So with the level 2 advance, the question now becomes, do we want to try to disrupt these guys and break up any attempt, any effort to relieve the pressure on Battipaglia. And I'd like to do that, but I need to reassess the situation. So let me look at it, and then we'll come back to this. Okay, here's what I've decided. I've decided that the Germans just have too much to lose to be super aggressive here. I don't have artillery to follow on the to do the follow-on attack here. He has tanks, I have tanks. They cancel each other out in terms of combat shifts. In order to get a 2-to-1 edge on him, I'd have to send everybody into the breakthrough attack, and I'm just not prepared to do that because that leaves the center here open and vulnerable. So I've split things up, and the units that were here, some of them advanced here, which is legal, Ezok to Ezok, but then they have to stop. These units also went boom, boom, like so, and their defensive strength is going to be doubled across the river in both cases. So I feel like both stacks are pretty strong against American counterattacks. Plus, the Americans are going to have to spend supply points to renew their artillery here in order to break that up. The Fifth Army has 2 supply points to spend, and so they're going to have to make a tough choice to try to finally break through here at Battipaglia, or start to beat up on this and force the Germans out of Battipaglia by outflanking. I kind of think that that's what's going to have to happen. The Commonwealth attack on this town has failed. So I parked these guys here. I parked the Recon and the Hermann Goering tanks here because of 2 reasons. It creates a Zoc bond here. So these guys can't slide around anymore. It limits frontage against Battipaglia on the part of the Commonwealth can't get a lot of units next to Battipaglia. It allows these guys that are in this hex to perhaps get out if they want to on the next turn, should this position hold. So that's why I've decided to do what I have done there. So the only thing left to do on this turn really is, since there's no supply points left for the Germans, is get rid of the replacement marker here. We don't have any disordered units outside Battipaglia, so we'll start their dice through all those. I'll just put these back in as we do it. All right, so let's dice through these. First of all, we will roll for the tanks, and since we are in a town, we get a +2 modifier, and so we need a 3 or better. And the first one's a 6, so they're going to recover. Second one is a 3, so he recovers. The next one is a 5, he recovers. The last one, I couldn't buy a recovery for these guys in last turn. So, well, the dice aren't stuck on 1s, that's for sure. It's fortunate for the Allies that they didn't roll those on any of those combats. That could have been really ugly. But the big thing is now there's elite units back in here to organize a desperate determined defense, and make it likelier for it to hold in the event of an attack. Of course, there is no artillery to support that. So big question is whether the Allies want to risk throwing all in again one more time. I don't think they can, because that would be 2, 4, 6, 8. That becomes 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. You'd have to get 20 factors just to get to a 1-to-1 there. Not gonna happen. So the Allies are going to have to marshal their strength in a different way in their half of the turn. So I need to think this through for them, and then we'll conclude the video with their segment. All right, this one was a tricky one to figure out what to do, because it felt like there's no real good options for the Allies. So obvious thing was I got to bring at least 1 unit into this port. 1-step unit's the best I can do, so we went ahead and brought in that battalion from the 45th. There's no attack possible, but getting rid of the guy that was here does help. He can't get the 2-to-1 odds next time around, so there is that going for us. And we do have some 82nd Airborne guys that come in the next turn. So the crisis may have passed. We'll see. And I went ahead to try to ensure things. I went ahead and slid one of the commando teams over to start putting some meaningful pressure on this route as well. And, kind of try to relieve some of the pressure here. Not going to let the Germans just come in and take that particular location away. So I did the best I could with what I had on hand there. Didn't do anything with those guys. I left these two boys in place. I guess I could just kind of uncamp them. I went ahead and moved this group back a hex, and the reason for that is there's enough strength here to get 2-to-1 attack on that particular stack. I don't want to lose the other tanks, so I went ahead and backed them up and supported them with the new brigade that came in from the 7th Armored. So that's a pretty strong stack there, and they're within range of naval guns. The tanks that were with the 82nd Airborne just kind of slid around here to provide support for the beachhead here. So everything's covered by tanks in that open ground. That'll give the Germans pause about attacking any closer to the shoreline. What's really cool is how this is at least in this sector, it's mirroring what happened historically. Very heavy pressure here on September 15th on the beachhead. Things look very scary for the commanders in the field, but this looks to be about the most the Germans will ever be able to do in terms of attacking the beachheads. Went ahead and slid some more tanks up to support the 82nd Airborne there and brought them into position to get possibly an attack. I haven't fully decided whether I'm going to attack that. It's 1-to-1 odds, 2-to-1 with the elite shift, but there's no artillery really to support it. What I really want to do is put a really strong attack on this group here. So with a strength rating of 4 multiplied by 2 because of the river to 8, I've got an attack strength of 16 points. Leading the attack is the 45th Division with some support. Put a skeleton crew in here, just a battalion of infantry and a battalion of tank destroyers to hold back this group here. And I started bringing a battalion around to begin to leverage this guy out of position, start to open things up. This is going to open up. Question is whether there's enough time to get the points that the Allies are going to need to win this game. So we'll see. So the one attack I want to do here is a 2-to-1. That's the... it's so tempting. I mean, I'd love to throw this guy into as a supporter for another shift. However, I also want to try to keep him close to the beachhead, so, or at least close to the other, because I was in a position, he was situated, I think, right here, and I could have brought him around. I'm just going to leave it. I'll leave it alone. I may have not made the best move there, but it is what I've decided to do. And we're going to go ahead and throw all of our artillery into this. We went ahead and used our artillery points to put core artillery in the Commonwealth sector and in the U.S. sector. So we're going to use both of those to blaze away. And we'll see if that's a mistake or not. 2-to-1 odds, 3-to-1, 4-to-1, and that's it. 4-to-1 odds on that group. And U.S. really needs to roll well here. Need to catch a break. Overdue for one. That is just how it's been. So I don't know. Maybe the dice are just camera shy tonight. So 4-to-1's a DR2, which doesn't hurt us. But the thing was, I was really hoping to hurt the Germans there, and that just didn't happen. So I think we kind of want to keep this line intact. So we'll retreat like so. Throw a disrupt on them. And of course, we'll be able to move into here. And then I think we can go ahead and do that. Because this is the vacated hex. That puts these guys into a very bad position. Bring this into here because most of the tanks are up here. I'd like to leave him with some support. So we'll see how that works. I mean, there's a couple ways to relieve that pressure, but let's just see what happens with that. Now the question now is, do I risk a 2-to-1 attack to try to kill that entire stack? That becomes something worth considering. Let's look at the odds. We need a retreat. So 50-50 chance that's not going to happen. And there's a 50-50 chance something bad. There will be a step loss at least on the Allied stacks if I pursue this. But we can get 1-to-1 odds, 2-to-1 with the shift. I don't know. I think it's worth it. I think fortune favors the bold here. I mean, the way the game is going, we've got to take some Germans off the board in order to leverage them out of this valley and start to force them into a retreat where they can't use their artillery effectively. That's something I think is worth trying. So, okay. Well, there you go. Take the step loss on this guy. I hate to do that. I think what I'm going to do instead is throw this guy into there. Well, that was unfortunate. That's just how it is. As the game balanced against the Allies, no, my dice just suck. So for the Allies, that's been the story, the leading story of the game. There's been a few notable, a few isolated instances where there is, a die roll of 6 or something for the Allies, but it seems like those have been few and far between. It seems like most of the really good die rolls in clutch situations have come for the Germans, and for that reason, it's just feeling like the Allies they just can't seem to catch a break. So, this still doesn't this is still a precarious position for the Germans, so it's not over yet. There will be attacks in the next turning, I'm sure, on these guys here. We'll just have to see what happens. There's no supply points to flip any of the artillery, so unfortunately, the U.S. has shot its wad in terms of artillery, so that's going to make a determined defense unlikely in the open. I mean, the only time I try that in the open is in a clutch case where I want to keep a stack of units tied down to where I can actually do some damage against them. So we do have a killer stack here that is coming disrupted, and the tanks for the U.S. cannot support a Commonwealth attack, but they can help defend with them and eliminate a shift. So that's something that's good for them. And so after removing all the markers there, we'll call that the end of turn number 7. Quite a lot of action in that one, so we took a little bit more time to walk you through it.